I was drafted here, I felt like the expectations were high. I felt like I did okay, but I always knew, why I was drafted. You draft a guy at top five, you expect him to come and, really help change the organization. And, I felt like, at times, I showed flashes of doing that, but it wasn't to my expectations. So, like I said, this time around, I feel like I have unfinished business. I definitely see the opportunity, working with Gino to be able to do some great things. So I'm excited about it.
No, Raider Nation, you don't have to adjust your TV or your video or whatever, however you're watching, your phone, however you're watching us. Right, that really was Amari Cooper. And he really is back with the silver and black with the Raiders. The Raiders obviously acquired Amari Cooper, the veteran wide receiver who they drafted 4th overall way back when. What year was that?
2015.
4th overall in 2015, then traded away in 2018 to the Dallas Cowboys. He is now back with the Raiders. We're going to get into all of this and the impact that he practically makes on the roster. But for today's purpose, it was cut down day today, Adam. And so his presence definitely had a ripple effect on some of the decisions that the Raiders made on getting down from 91 to their 53-man roster. Before we get into all that, just want to introduce myself. I'm Vinny Bonsignore. I cover the Las Vegas Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation. To my right is my great colleague and friend, Adam Hill. He also covers the Raiders, everything else in Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation. And we are Vegas Nation First and 10, your go-to for Raider news and analysis. And a big day today, obviously. Every team in the NFL by 1 p.m. Pacific time. I don't deal with the Eastern time. It's Pacific time.
Sure.
It's the only real time in the world. Just kidding. Anyway,
I'm not kidding.
Okay, there you go. At 1 p.m. Pacific time, the Raiders had to reduce their roster to 53 players, which they did. It took them a little while to announce it. But, every team does things a little bit differently, and there's strategy involved, and that's good. We'll give them a pass on all that. We finally figured out what that roster looked like. And Amari Cooper, we mentioned, obviously had an impact and a ripple effect on the roster. There's a couple players, at least one in particular, that's not here on the 53-man roster because the Raiders went out and got Amari Cooper, the veteran wide receiver. That would be Alex Bachman. I think we can all agree on that. But, how could you say no, I guess, at this point? To Amari Cooper, and it sure sounds like the selling point from Pete Carroll, the Raiders head coach, to Amari Cooper was, again, Pete Carroll wants to win. And I know that might come in at the expense of some young players, a Jack Besh, a Dante Thornton. We don't even know about Tommy Millott at this point. We'll get to him in a little bit. But it's going to come at the expense of some growth and some development. But Pete Carroll wants to win right now, and I think that he believes, and he's probably right, at this stage, Amari Cooper helps along those lines more than some of the other guys.
I think we said the roster spot comes at the expense of Alex Bachman. I don't think there's any question Alex Bachman is on the team, then he's not because Amari Cooper's here. And I do think Amari Cooper will play a lot, and that will take away, in my mind, some of the development. I know I was talking to some people around the Raiders who said, no, that's not really how it works. They'll develop in practice. Like, no, you need game time. You need to be out on the field. It will, I think, hinder the development of some of the young players. But while we talk about the kind of direct correlation between Alex Bachman getting cut and Amari Cooper getting signed, I think that's clear. That's a clear line. I do think it also is, hey, Jack Besh wasn't ready. I do think that was a big part of this. I think as you're watching him, you see the talent, you see the ability, you see what he's going to become at some point. But I think you also see he's not ready to step out there and be an impact player right now. And so they go out and they say, all right, let's find another wide receiver. Not that they're directly playing the same position or the same type of player, but I think they felt they needed a receiver on the field that could be productive right now, and they think Amari Cooper is that guy. Look, I think we talked about this last night. I don't think it changes the complexion of the team necessarily, but it's a guy they trust. There's no question about it.
Well, yeah, and I guess my bigger point of all that is that I like to try to get, what's the famous line from The Godfather, think like the people around you think, right? And so from my perspective, you don't make this move if you're Pete Carroll. And this, as we said yesterday, this is probably more of a Pete Carroll move than a front office move. That happens sometimes.
We could be wrong about this, but I think both of us are operating under the assumption if there's a move that's about today, it's probably Pete Carroll. And if there's a move that's about the future, it's probably John Spivey.
And to put that in perspective, I used to cover the Lakers back in the day. I remember having a meeting with Mitch Kupchak, an interview, and on a wall in his office, much like this office, a big, huge wall, was every contract of every player in the NBA by team, and he goes, I'll spend hours just going through here and looking at who's going to be available 3 years from now, 4 years from now, who's pending free agents, and the whole point was, look, Phil Jackson has the luxury of looking at things 10 minutes, 10 days down the road, but mainly a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
He goes, I got to look at it from a 10-minute perspective, a 10-day perspective, a 10-week, a 10-month, a 10-year perspective. You just have to as a general manager. So they look at things through different lenses, and especially when we start talking about Pete Carroll being 73 years old, that throws something else into it. And so, going back to my point, think like the people around you think. Pete Carroll, I don't think necessarily even does this move unless he thinks that there's a legitimate chance here to win. And again, we're not talking Super Bowl or anything like that, but I think in his mind, he's looking at that magical 9-10 win number that he typically hovers around as a coach, believing that that's potentially a path to a playoff spot, or at least put you in contention for a playoff spot. And if he could find somebody that can help him enhance that, that's what he's going to do. And now, if he thought that this team was years and years away, first of all, he wouldn't be here.
He wouldn't have taken the job.
He wouldn't have taken the job. Number two, then I don't think that I think he would have sided with the general manager, hey, we need to build, that my job is going to be to try to get you to another plateau and then hand it over to somebody else at some point, which kind of he's doing anyway. But I think he feels legitimately like 9-10 wins is out there for this team, and therefore a move like this in his mind is justified.
Part of that is hubris. I don't think there's any question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a coach who has had a ton of success, averaged over 9 wins a year as a coach. I know
23 straight years.
That stat has kind of been thrown around multiple times, including apparently Pete Carroll told Amari Cooper he's won 10 games, 23
worked.
straight
It got
years.
him here.
That's not accurate.
Right. Close enough.
But it's something that
you
Pete
get the gist.
Pete Carroll told us that too, and no, it didn't. That's not true.
What are you gonna do? It's like your granddad.
But I think to be fair,
You ever gonna argue with your grandfather like that, grandma? That's
sure,
not
but
what
to be
happened.
fair, he has averaged over 9 wins
Without
a
a
year.
doubt.
So I mean,
right. He's in that world.
He that's what he does, right?
Yes.
He does win games at a consistent level. There's no debating that part of it, even if you want to dive into the actual numbers.
Right.
But I think Pete Carroll, whether it's true or not, believes he can take a team and make them a winner.
right.
And so like sometimes you have to just will your way into that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying it will, could it come back to haunt them? And he was wrong about the team. They're not that good, and they've made some decisions for the now that do impact them and hurt them down the road. Yeah, that's in the range of
It
outcomes.
is.
of
I'm always
what's
curious
going on.
how you quantify that. Like, how would
It's
you
tough.
know one way or another whether or not his presence affected
Right.
Jack Besh or something?
Yeah, it's impossible to, but you do make decisions differently if you think you can win now than
Without
if
a
you
doubt.
think you win down the road, and it's not always accurate. Sometimes it goes back to, and we're really diving down a deep hole now, but it goes into blackjack sometimes, right? Like if you out there understand how to play blackjack, there is an optimal way to play that gives you the best chance to win, right? But if you do this, you have the best chance to win in the long run. But you could also stay on an 18, or excuse me, you can hit on an 18, which is incredibly stupid, and get a 3, and the dealer had a 20. And like you do something very stupid and get a win, right? Like that's possible.
I'm
So-
deferring to you on
right.
this.
So I guess what I'm saying is like, even though there's a path, and we say, well,
True.
the path to having success in the long run is getting younger players and trying to build for the future. The path to winning now is getting the older players and the veterans and trying to win now. Like sometimes you get an older player, it doesn't work out. Maybe Amari Cooper gets hurt. You find a young player that comes in for
Mm-hmm.
him, and then all of a sudden it worked out for you in the long run. Like just because there's a path, an optimal path, doesn't mean it's the only path to take that can
true.
get you to the right place.
Now we're spending a lot of time talking about a guy who will finish where in the hierarchy of the Raiders' receptions and yards.
Is Jacoby Myers here? Because I think he is.
Yeah.
So in this exercise, if Jacoby Myers is here, I think he finishes 4th.
So there you go. Which maybe Jack Besh would have done the same thing.
Sure.
But neither here nor there at that point. This is the Raiders' reality.
Total receptions 5th.
Okay. You never know, though. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that he had 109 catches and 1,200 yards.
I'm saying this time. I mean, if Jacoby Myers is here, you assume Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers are 1 and 2.
Yes.
I think Dante Thornton catches more passes than Amari Cooper.
I don't know.
But I was also including Ashton Genty in that,
Curious what Geno Smith thinks.
So my
about
thought
that.
was Bowers and Myers and Genty would catch more passes. but you might have to throw Dante Thornton in there too. So 4th or 5th.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting because I think the keys to that is going to be Geno Smith, and if he develops instant chemistry with Amari Cooper, I guarantee you he's going to be leaning pretty heavily into Amari Cooper. He wants to win too, and you know how quarterbacks get when they get confident in a guy. And not to take anything away from Dante Thornton, but I can see that he and Cooper could vibe in that way, and that leads to more receptions. But it's going to be fascinating to watch one way or another. Now, so to me, there weren't a whole lot of surprises with this roster, but there were a couple that were notable. I think the first for me is Terrell Edmonds not making the team, and look, Terrell Edmonds was a guy that the Raiders picked up a couple weeks ago or so. He was basically designated, and was filling in for Lonnie Johnson Jr., who went down with a broken fibula bone. What Lonnie was playing was the safety in the heavy nickel package that the Raiders were running, which was pretty often. They were running that quite a bit. So he would be the safety that replaced Jeremy Chin, the safety who would move down to the slot in that personnel grouping. And so Lonnie was doing that. That was the role that he was earmarked for.
And will do it when he comes back.
Yes, and will do it when he's coming back, which could be 4 or 5 weeks into the season. Okay, so that said, Terrell Edmonds was starting to get the majority of the first team reps in that role.
Yeah, almost exclusively.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you go from being the first team big safety in the big nickel look to off the team? I've got my thoughts, so I want to, I could go first. You could go first on what you think that might have.
I would say the signs were starting to be on the wall Saturday because while he was taking all the first team reps, and he did start the game in that role Saturday, he was still in there very late into the game, and either they were looking for something, trying to figure out what he was going to bring, where exactly he was. How much he could hold up, how much can his body hold up for a whole game at this point. I think they're trying to figure out all those things. And they also knew in their mind, like, they need somebody for the first 4 weeks to play this role, really. I mean, if they think Lonnie Johnson, and from everything we hear and, talking to some of the assistant coaches last week, Lonnie Johnson they do expect back after a month. So they needed somebody temporarily. Could he fill that role? And I think he still could.
Well, yeah, there's a way, there's actually a path, and it makes a lot of sense if this is what ends up happening. All right, so I think Saturday could be looked at two different ways. Number one, they weren't sure and they wanted to see a little bit more, and maybe they didn't see what they wanted to see. Number one. Number two, they were just trying to get his body back into shape. Remember, he had missed all of OTAs, all of training camp, most of training camp, and that was just a way to get, like, there were like three other players that were coming off of injuries that played a lot in that game, so that could have just been reps trying to get them ramped up. And if that is the case, if it's the latter, which we just mentioned, what I could see happening is Terrell Edmonds skates through the waiver wire process. Although, does he even need to be waived?
I don't think he's waived. I think he was released.
He was released. So chances are,
vested veteran.
It's an even more likely scenario now that he's just going to sign right back with, unless somebody decides, hey, we're going to throw a bunch of money at you and you got your 53-man roster spot, which. Likely or unlikely? Probably unlikely. This is a guy that
add to the 53. Yeah, I mean, he could go somewhere else to be on a practice squad because he can do whatever he wants at this point.
Right.
But yeah, I think because that's the other problem. Because if the plan is what you're suggesting, which I think it's very
real
possible.
Quick, let's just bottom line that if he comes back to the Raiders practice squad, then they have 4 opportunities to activate him to promote him on game day, the Saturday before the day before any game, and activate him to their game day roster. You got 4 opportunities to do that with your practice squad. After 4, they got to be on your 53-man roster. All right, so you can see a scenario where for the first 4 games of the season, while Lonnie Johnson's getting back because that fits his timeline, Terrell Edmonds gets promoted from the practice squad to the game day roster, 46-7-player game day roster, to play that role.
Right.
And then in 4 weeks, either Lonnie Johnson's ready to come back, and then you have a decision to make on Terrell Edmonds, or he's not, and then he just goes on your 53-man roster.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. The only hiccup potentially in that is if your plan was using Saturday we know that's the role we want for him. If you're the Raiders, if they're saying we want him to do this, we're going to put him on the practice squad, we're going to activate him for the first 4 games till Lonnie Johnson gets back, and we're going to let him play almost the entire game Saturday so that he's in game shape for week 1, ready to go. The only problem with that is that you are putting almost a full game on film. And if he is as good as you think he is right now and he's going to be ready to help you, now every other team in the league can be like, oh, wait, saw something
That's
from
why we
that guy.
love
Saw
Adam.
something from that
He's always
guy.
next level.
Right.
He always
Saw something
think-
from that
there's
guy.
There's always
so you are showcasing him for other teams at that point, if that was your plan.
Right.
But I do think that probably is in the realm of plans that they had of, hey, we're going to disactivate him for the first 4 weeks, then Lonnie Johnson will be back. Now we can decide where he's at that point.
Right. Okay. So maybe we've unlocked that whole riddle of why they waived the guy that was taking the majority of first team reps at a pretty key position. Number one. Number two, the big surprise for me was Aiden O'Connell, who we know suffered a fractured wrist on Saturday in the preseason finale against the Arizona Cardinals. He's going to be out at least 6 weeks, more likely 8 weeks or so. I think the general consensus was that Aiden O'Connell on today, Tuesday, was going to be put on the injured reserve list before the 53-man roster was set. Rules nowadays, you're given two opportunities, two players that you could put on IR before the 53-man roster is set and still be able to bring them back after 4 games in the season. Previously, the rule was if you went on IR before the 53-man roster was set, that's it. Your year is over. You're not eligible to come back. Under the new rules, you can. So everyone was assuming that Aiden O'Connell was going to go like Lonnie Johnson.
Because there's 2. You can use 2.
Of the 8. There's 8 total.
For the whole year.
For the whole year.
But 2 you can use before the season. 1 was going to be Lonnie Johnson.
For
No
sure.
question. And the Raiders had 1 extra spot, 1 injured player that's going to be out at least that long. Seemed very likely that was going to be what would happen.
But that isn't what happened. He actually he's on the 53-man roster, which Adam is going to explain shortly. That meant that they had to waive one other player, maybe didn't have to, and expose him to waivers or release him, I guess, for that matter, to save a roster spot for a guy that's not going to be around for maybe 6 games. Let's just say 6 games. So what do the Raiders potentially have up their sleeve with that? Because they're not just holding a roster spot for a guy that's not going to be able to play for them.
I don't think so. I don't. This is a tough one to read exactly what it was because we were just so sure of what was going to happen. Honestly, I thought there was 2 possibilities. The very most likely was that they're going to use that extra IR spot. Like, to me, that was almost a slam dunk, easy call, no question about it. The other possibility to me, once they got Kenny Pickett, was that they were just going to waive it.
Yeah.
And just say, we've got our backup quarterback for the season. We gave up a 5th-round pick for Kenny Pickett. He's the backup. What is the point of having Aiden O'Connell around? So maybe they'd waive him. They didn't do either. They kept him on the active roster. To me, that says a couple of things. First, the first possibility is that maybe they just didn't have a player that they were that worried about losing that they waived today.
Not necessarily a good thing.
Of the guys that they waived, there was none that they said,
We'd love to have you back, but
yeah, hey, thanks, but because you did have an extra spot that you just did not use.
yeah, even if it was just to carry that player
Right.
for a couple of days, and then I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves here, because what they could be doing is saving that roster spot for a waived player,
Sure.
a claim, or there's a veteran out there that they can sign immediately, and that's just the roster spot that once they sign that player or claim that waiver and they're awarded that player, then they take Aiden's spot. Aiden then goes on to IR. But you could have also
or is waived.
Right.
I mean, that's possible. Too.
Or they could have just. I was talking to somebody in the NFL universe out there. He said if they were going to do that, you could still put him on the IR and use that spot to carry a young player for a day or two. And this goes back to your point of they just didn't have that player.
Yeah.
To then do this once everyone has their 53-man roster set, basically after all the claims, all of this, all of that, then you can kind of sneak that player through IR and then bring him back to your practice squad. They didn't even do that, which kind of tells you that they didn't have anybody in mind.
I have no doubt that they're going to make transactions between now and tomorrow. They're going to put in waiver claims on some players. They're going to bring some guys in. This is not the final 53-man roster. We're going to see some changes between now and tomorrow, and then between tomorrow and the start of the season.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the Aiden O'Connell spot is one that's going to be used in a certain way. Like they're going to bring somebody in and do something with Aiden O'Connell. There's no question about that. But the fact that they didn't try to kind of steal that spot just tells me there wasn't a guy that they were that worried about.
Which is
not.
We're
It's
talking
not a
about
great
Cam
sign.
Miller. We're
Not a
talking
great sign
about
for depth.
Tommy Millott. We're talking about some other undrafted free agents, and so those two are the names that are the most conspicuous because you feel like they're drafted players. You want to protect those players as much as possible, and but they didn't. Speaking about Cam Miller, I would expect if he goes unclaimed, he's going to be back to the Raiders practice squad. I'm not quite sure about Tommy Millett.
I would doubt it.
Okay, yeah, and my reason for that would be I don't think he's shown enough as a wide receiver that you're gonna. I don't think he's shown enough as a wide receiver to convince the Raiders that that pouring more development into him is going to get him to where they feel like where they need him to be down the road, and therefore you'd be wasting a practice squad. There's 16 of those spot on somebody that's really just a special teamer, and I don't know that they feel like that's a worthy spot to use it on.
And I don't think it's any. I don't think it's any accident. Not that he wouldn't have given up the number anyway. But when Amari Cooper got here this morning, there was talk of 19's already in use. So he wore 17. For those that saw, the announcement was Amari Cooper's going to wear number 17. Malak gets cut, and immediately the equipment staff's like, "Hey, take 19, man. Like he's not going to be back here tomorrow. So take 19." To me, like it's a very small thing, but it's definitely a sign. Like, I don't think anybody thinks that he's coming back tomorrow.
So, long story short, with Aiden, I could see this scenario happen. They bring in a player. He then goes on IR, or as you said, he could be waived. I would, if I'm the Raiders, I don't do that just yet. I don't waive him right now. I don't have to. Like, there's 8 spots that you have that you could bring guys back, right? So I don't know the likelihood that you're going to use all 8 this year. So you can be flexible with at least one of those spots. This is what I would do. I would put him on the IR. All right. Number one, I'm going to monitor whatever happens with Kenny Pickett, grasping the system, all that kind of stuff. Do you like Kenny Pickett enough that he's going to be the undisputed number 2 quarterback, which I believe he's going to?
Yes.
All right. So there's. By
the way, you give up a 5th-round pick, he better be
your
undisputed number 2 quarterback.
No doubt. Now, Aiden O'Connell's sitting over there on IR. All right. And now you could just monitor rather than just give him away on waivers. Let's just see how the season plays out. There might be a situation, I'm going to say there's going to be a likely situation, that there's a team that they're going to lose a quarterback. And they're going to go, you know what, Aiden O'Connell's, he's Kenny Pickett for crying out loud, or Kenny Pickett-like. If Kenny Pickett could get you a 5th-round pick, Aiden O'Connell might be able to get you a 6th or a 7th, some kind of value for it, rather than just give him away right now. So maybe that's part of the plan as well. Just hold on to him for as long as you possibly can. If Kenny Pickett isn't the answer, you can always bring him back, cut, Kenny Pickett, and Aiden O'Connell's on the backup quarterback. It's the least likely in my mind. But B, just hold on to him just in case somebody needs a quarterback that they're going to give something up to get Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, all those are very, very possible. Just in my mind, it just the red flag is that they, at least a yellow but close to red flag, orange flag, I guess we can call it.
Yeah, orange.
Is that they didn't use that spot.
Is there an orange flag?
No, but it's somewhere between a yellow and a red.
Like car racing or anything like that?
I don't think so.
I don't.
Maybe there should be.
Dom over here knows it's car racing.
No
orange. What about soccer? Is there an orange flag in soccer? There's so many flags in soccer, right? Yellow, red, whatever.
I think it's the corner flags sometimes are orange, but that's not really a thing.
Exactly. So those are the surprises for me. Short of that, anything else that the wider series? We talked about Alex Bachman. I don't know.
You know what? Maybe there are some extra things. We'll talk about them after we hear from this.
I like it. But before we do that, hey guys, you asked for it. You got it. We are giving you special Raiders coverage at a massively discounted price. That's right. Raider News over at Vegas Nation is now available. Check this out. The next 3 months for 25 cents total, Adam.
It's kind of a big 3 months, too.
Right.
Most of the season.
Right, exactly. It covers most of the season. It's 25 cents. That's not 25 cents per month, mind you. It's 25 cents total for the next 3 months. That's a 97%.
I was going to say, my math isn't great. I think that's about 97% off.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
97% off discount on the best Raider news coverage out there. It's Vegas Nation. And all you have to do is this. You go to mylvrj.com/nation. That's mylvrj.com/nation and sign up for the next 3 months for Vegas Nation coverage at the greatly reduced price of 25 cents for the total of all the 3 months, 25 cents. Can't make it any clearer, so go check it out over at mylvrj.com/nation.
We're finishing up the film, making sure that we've seen everything that we can evaluate on the guys that are here as we make our decisions here. That's the first thing. And then the process comes for all of the coaches to lend their opinions and help us see what they see as we're seeing who's going to stay, who's not going to stay. Johnny and I have a lot of work to do to make sure that we have it ironed out.
That was Pete Carroll talking about roster, competing, all the good stuff that he talks about. By the way, over at Vegas Nation, you have all of our coverage. You can check out my 53-man roster, which I didn't count it up, but I was pretty darn close. I was pretty close. There were some surprises. Will Putnam, the center from Clemson, making the team as one of the 10 offensive linemen, by the way.
Yeah.
10 offensive linemen, 10 defensive linemen. Not at all surprised by the 10 offensive linemen. I did not have them with 10 offensive linemen. I didn't have Putnam on the team. Everyone else was on my final 53-man roster. What do you make of that? And is that a flex? Is that one of those don't look too hard at that player in that roster spot, because that could change pretty quickly?
Yeah, I mean, 10 offense and 10 defense, I think that was maybe a little heavy. I think a lot of people thought 9 and 9 would be where they might end up on those spots. So, yeah, they've got a lot of bodies up front, no question about it. That could be an area you look at. We talked about the Aiden O'Connell roster spot potentially, how to use that. The Thomas Harper one, which, he has been out a lot of the time. So, they must think he's ready to go, but maybe that's a plan potentially of, I don't know if he would need to go on injured reserve. I think he's okay. I think that's why he's part of the roster right now. So maybe they're planning on using that spot. I think there's a lot of spots on the roster you could look at and say this is probably where moves come from in terms of if you do pick somebody up at a position, you got some depth at the offensive defensive line where you can kind of play with a little bit. But yeah, I mean, good for Will Putnam for making the team, no question about it. And that, a little bit more depth at center.
A little more depth at center makes you wonder about
if they ever think Jackson Powers Johnson
is
going to play center.
That's where my mind went. If Will stays on the team, is that a signal that they just are not ever entertaining any ideas of Jackson Powers Johnson being the center? Like if Jordan Meredith were to go down, are they just like, no, we're not going to do that? Jackson Powers Johnson, you stay at guard.
Yeah, or where are they at on Kappa potentially? If they'd be worried about if Jordan Meredith went down, then you move Jackson Powers Johnson back to center. Then what happens at guard if Caleb Rogers and
Putnam has cross-trained at guard. We've seen him at guard.
Sure. So just the depth on the inside, I think is interesting. And also just the part. I mean, the simple one is, do they think Jackson Powers Johnson is a center at all? If they just if they weren't going to use him there, I mean that's possible too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of flexibility, I think, on the offensive and defensive line, but we also knew that there was just a lot of bodies there that they, kind of wanted to have around and wanted to, train. The two young guys, Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers, I think can be really good players.
Yeah.
They are not there yet.
No.
And so, that's two spots that I'm not going to use the word, it's like wasted roster spots, but those are two guys on the roster that I don't think you're very comfortable with throwing into a game right now.
Absolutely. And
so that's part of why you have so much more depth on the
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't know how this turned. I know that Thayer Munford hasn't had the best, preseason, but there's a body of work there with Thayer Munford, that would suggest that when called upon, he plays capable football. Has since he got here, in 2023, I think it was. And I know again, he struggled a little bit during the preseason. We've seen him day in and day out. He's been typical Thayer Munford out there for the most part at practice. But there was a lot of fan reaction of, why didn't they get rid of Thayer Munford? Why don't you release Thayer Munford? Well, I think if you're paying attention, Adam just kind of bottom-lined it. Charles Grant, who is a tackle and could end up being a pretty good one, he's not ready at all, right?
And by the way, that's a guy I'm very high on.
Yeah, I am too.
And he's just not ready.
Yeah,
so you wouldn't want to throw him into action like a week one in New England.
Exactly. Look, and this is always told to us. We've heard this quote a million times, but I'm gonna repeat it. There are very few human beings on the face of the earth that have that kind of size, that kind of athletic ability, that can be even just a capable swing tackle, spot starter tackle. They're hard to find, and the Raiders have one in Thayer Munford. Now, that's not to say that there's not a better option out there, and maybe a better option emerges, and they trade him out for the better option. But good luck finding that better option right now. Right now today, he offers some certainty that I don't think a lot of people sometimes appreciate. When they're just he made a bad block or whiffed on a block in a meaningless preseason game. Cut him, get rid of him, bring in somebody else. Who can you go out there and get that can do just what Thayer Munford has done over his first few years? That's hard to find, harder than people think.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's weird to say like Thayer Munford would go into a game over Charles Grant, but if they were going to get rid of one of them right now, it would be Thayer Munford over Charles Grant.
But they don't have to.
It's interesting, but right. But
Yeah.
I'm saying like it is. I understand those things are hard to process when you're kind of looking at like, well, what do you mean by that? But that's just how it is. Like Charles Grant is a developmental piece that they wouldn't waive. They wouldn't want to expose
By
to
the
somebody
way,
else. But
Thayer
Thayer
Munford gets
would go into the
claimed.
game. Yeah,
Thayer Munford gets claimed 100% of the time.
Yeah.
There's other teams that need that position as well. So that is a risk. And for right now, that's a risk too big taking. Now, again, if somebody were to emerge outside this building that they believe offers a better tackle than Thayer Munford, they'd be all over it.
The way they've been making moves lately, Trent Brown just got released. So, I mean, that seems to be the direction they're going. Give me some guys that were really good 6 years ago.
Yeah. The Raiders are building a pretty good 2020 team right now. The best 2020 team that money can buy. We'll see where it gets them. Again, we've explained why Pete's probably thinking along those terms, and he's the head coach, and that's kind of his call. So we'll see whether it works out or not. I want to go back real quick to Cam Miller. Do you think who of the players that got waived, the young players that got waived, is there somebody that I'm not, but is there somebody that you're like, that you think the Raiders are tossing and turning, worried that they're going to get claimed? Leke Tase is somebody that that Raider fans have been kind of wringing their hands on. He's the international pathway player.
If they do get him back, then that doesn't count for the practice squad.
He's their 17th.
So that would be a really good piece to get back if he's not claimed, but he could get claimed. I mean, I think he showed them some good things on film. Again, not ready, but I think he showed some things on film that somebody might be interested. That size and that athleticism of somebody who has never played football before, I think it could be appealing to somebody to put them on the roster.
If that were to happen, he would be the first IPP player ever to be claimed on cutdown day. So it could happen.
It could.
The odds.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are fairly confident they're getting him back. Is there somebody that they'd freak out if they got claimed? I mean, no, I was going to say no. Because in my mind, I was like, Terrell Evans, he doesn't have to go through waivers. So if he does have a role week 1, which we think he might, that might be concerning to them. But no, I don't think there's a player. And I do think there's some players that they release that they have no intention of bringing back as well. So
I think Greedy Vance comes back.
Potentially, yeah.
I think Matt Jones, the linebacker from Baylor. I know he had some rough nights, but there's a profile there that I saw in practice. I think he's got a lot of tools to work with. It's going to be a little while. It may never turn around for him or turn into anything. But I think the Raiders like the tools there. Veteran players of the players that they cut that might fill those 6 veteran spots. I think Jalen
potentially
Smith.
Bachman. I think could maybe come back, just have a receiver that's ready. They only have 5 receivers on the roster right now.
Yeah.
So I just think a guy that could be a plug and play type of guy that they could potentially do that with. Maybe Dorsett. Potentially.
Colin
could do that. Colin Johnson, maybe one of them. I think 1 or 2 of them would probably be in the mix.
And look,
to potentially be a receiver, because they've only got 5 right now.
Yeah, Alex Bachman. I know that he's probably hurt right now.
Yeah,
understandably so. We all heard the soundbite. This meant a lot to him. It didn't work out, unfortunately for him. But it's still $13,000, 11, 12, roughly $13,000 a week. To be on a practice squad. And honestly, if you're Alex Bachman, unless again he might get picked up, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But maybe there's a better practice squad opportunity out there for him. But I would imagine him being in this building for the last couple of years, knowing this team, working with them day in and day out, this probably would be his best opportunity to play and to get activated. And I'm sure the Raiders actually would reward him from time to time with one of those promotions.
Yeah, I would think so. But again, they've got a couple of different candidates to fill that. So which direction they want to go. I think really interesting next 24 hours. For sure. We'll hear from John Spytek tomorrow on a lot of what he's thinking. And I think we're going to see a lot of changes between now and then. And then I still think we're going to see some tweaking of
Yeah.
the roster between tomorrow and opening game, which is September 7th.
For those who are asking, the claim period ends 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. So for anybody that doesn't get claimed between now and 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow, they are become free agents. They can sign wherever they want with whoever's. They're not obligated to come back to this practice squad either. So keep that in mind. So that's 9 a.m. tomorrow. Keep an eye out for that. I would imagine that the Raiders are going to start building their practice squad right at 9:01 a.m. Tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to be here to cover all of it. Again, VegasNation.com. We've got you covered for everything. Go to mylvrj.com/nation. For your special offer on Raider coverage, 25 cents total for the next 3 months of coverage. That gets you right to the just when the playoffs might be starting, or the playoff hunt might be starting. So make sure to do that. We appreciate all the support. The numbers are going through the roof. We thank you for that. We thank the Las Vegas Review-Journal for all their support. Station Casinos, STN Sports, they're all their support. Dom, who is over here. Come on, let's get it wrapped up. We're doing that, Dom. Adam, thank you. Until tomorrow, and we will be here tomorrow doing a post-practice podcast, especially after hearing from Raiders General Manager John Spytek. Keep an eye out for that, and go to VegasNation.com for all your news and analysis about the Raiders.